We'll call the December 15th Bowling Green Warren County Planning Commission into order. And McKenna, if you would call the roll, please.
Commissioner Drain. Commissioner Gay.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Shaw.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale. Yes, Commissioner Volkert. And Chair Warren.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioners, you have the minutes of the December 1st meeting in your packet. Are there any questions? If not, I would call for a motion.
Motion to be approved as presented.
Second.
Commissioner Starks.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale. Commissioner Volkert.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Drain. Commissioner Gay.
Ma'am.
Commissioner Graham.
Staying.
Commissioner Shaw.
Yes, ma'am.
And Chair Warren.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioners, you have the subdivision site development plans in your packets. Are there any questions? Hearing none. Mr. Moore, if you would administer the oath.
Thank you.
Pull your mic down just a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's my cell phone that is creating the racket. I apologize.
That's all right.
Would you please order that the record tonight include all statutory and regulatory provisions which govern tonight's hearing? Also, if you would please order that the Commission's entire file for each application be included, along with the qualifications of all of these staff witnesses who are gathered. And finally, I'd ask that you administer the oath to each of those.
Swear to tell the truth? Yes, sir. Thank you very much. All right. There's no new business. Any old business, Ben? All right. We have two items tonight. Our first public hearing is 2022-05 DP Harrison R. Zoellner has filed an application to amend the general development plan conditions on a tract of land containing approximately 1.13 acres located at 893 Hunts Lane with a general development plan. Ms. Hurt?
Can you hear me now? Okay. And also apologies for the staff reports. They look like candy canes, but our printer was acting up. And then, of course, I think didn't they come and fix it right after McKenna had finished everything? So, but anyway, we'll get started here. We had a pre-application meeting back on November 15th for the property located on Hunts Lane. The current zoning is RE, residential estate, and this zoning was established for the property back in 2016. The current use of the property is vacant, however, there is a barn on the property. And then the future land use is low-density residential. And the applicant has applied to amend the development plan in order to amend the minimum required home size, and they are also proposing some additional development plan conditions to address the current comprehensive plan. With that, I'm just going to touch on the applicable items in the staff report that relate to the proposed changes. The first one on page 2, surrounding architectural features. Homes in the area range from 1 to 2 stories in height. Home sizes range from 640 square feet to 5,589 square feet, with a median home size of 1,457 square feet and an average home size of 2,007 square feet. The current minimum home size required by the original binding elements established in 2016 is 2,200 square feet, and the applicant has applied to amend the development plan to allow a minimum home size of 1,200 square feet. So the Planning Commission should determine if a home of this size will be compatible with the homes in the surrounding area. On page 3, I'll reference the site plan that was submitted with the application. You can see the proposed residence up in the top left corner here. And staff has noted that a majority of the existing homes on Hunts Lane have a front facade that faces Hunts Lane, and the applicant agreed that the new home would face Hunts Lane or be screened to include a minimum of 5 to 8 evergreens. And you can see that the plot plan that was submitted shows that the home would not face Hunts Lane, and if this were approved, the applicant would have to abide by the self-imposed screening requirement and the development plan conditions. Jumping down to the development plan conditions, you can see the proposed changes shown in bold font. The main one, again, number 2, proposal to reduce the minimum home size from 2,200 to 1,200 square feet. Number 4 is proposed to be removed because it's already completed. And then you'll see 5 additional development plan conditions relating to the minimum front setback, access, sinkholes, building orientation and screening, and preservation of existing vegetation. Section 312.8 of the zoning ordinance outlines the requirements for amending a development plan. And then on the next page, on page 4, you'll see the information that was supplied by the applicant as a part of their application to help and address this criteria in the ordinance. And so the Planning Commission should determine if the applicant has provided sufficient information to address the findings in section 312.8 of the ordinance, and if the proposal is compatible. Looking at the Focus 2030 category review, we evaluated several items, but there are 3 that I'll touch on for your consideration. The first, LU 1.1.3, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposed reduction in home size from 2,200 to 1,200 square feet is compatible with the area. And then on page 5, we've referenced HN 2.1 and HN 4, which look at suitability of the proposed housing type and housing options in the area. And then on page 1, I'll wrap up with our points to consider. The first, again, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposed development plan amendment to reduce the minimum home size is compatible with the area. And then the second, the Planning Commission should determine if the applicant has provided sufficient evidence to support an amendment to the development plan. I believe that is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rachel. Commissioners, questions for the staff report?
So Rachel, I'm missing it here. You said the applicant submitted a narrative as to why?
It's on page 4. It's the italicized text there. Starts with the Spencer subdivision being adopted in 2016. That was what they turned in on their application, and so we just copied and pasted that directly into the staff report.
Same topic that we.
I understand. Yeah, okay, very good. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Commissioners, any other questions for for Rachel's report?
Rachel, I may have missed this. You probably covered it. What is the average square footage of the homes in Lakeview? Do we know?
So I actually have that. I don't have the average,
Okay.
but I do have the binding element requirement. I should note, if we go back to the map, the characteristics that are identified, on page 2, about the surrounding architectural features, those relate only to lots that actually front Hunts Lane. So I think it was roughly from the intersection here going down. There's actually a map on page 28. And there are parcels that are outlined in yellow on that map. Those are what are included in that evaluation. But I do have the
Fountain Trace.
Fountain Trace, the minimum home size required by those binding elements in the original phase of Fountain Trace is 2,100 square feet, unless adjacent to Drakesboro, and in that case, it's 2,400 square feet. And then for the second phase of Fountain Trace, which is just this small area here, the minimum home size for that section, per the binding elements, is 3,000 square feet.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Rachel, the houses that sit beside the right-hand area of this lot, are they the ones that range from 640 to 5,000 feet?
The one, I thought this question might come up. So, the property at, let me go back to the aerial. I think you can see it a little bit better here. So, the property at 803 Hunts Lane, which would be this property here, it's just off the screen. That's the 640 square foot home. I think just if you go like 6 properties on either side, the biggest home size is at 1099 Hunts Lane to the west. It's 6 properties to the west, and that's 3408.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Volkert. Commissioners, any other questions for Rachel? Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Is the applicant here or their representative would like to add to this report? Yes, sir. If you'd come to the microphone, please, sir. You would state your name and address, please, sir.
Current address or the new address?
Your current address, to be fine.
Current address, 803 Covington
You-
Street,
I'm sorry, your first name
Harrison Zoellner,
and what address?
803 Covington Street.
All right, Mr. Zoellner, you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
I would just like to add, based off your PVA website, from the 700 block to 961, they range from 600 square foot to the biggest one being 1,200. With the above addresses listed, I would like to add that the average square foot is 1129, making mine 1280. Excuse me. And if you're counting 869, which is right behind mine, that is 2,500, which will skew the square footage of that also. That's all I'd like to add.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Zoellner?
Mr. Zellner, I'm looking at the plat,
Mm-hmm.
and it does not show the drive for this property to
Yes, sir.
go all the way out to the street. Is there a shared drive?
It's a shared easement with 869 right behind my lot.
Okay. And is there a reason that you have proposed having the home not face Hunts Lane?
There's no reason at all. I was just trying just to make it the best way possible to be able to get this passed. That was what was recommended to me.
And so this is a question for staff. I think we would prefer that it face Hunts Lane. Is that correct?
Sorry, I don't know that that would necessarily be the staff's preference. It's just that it would be in keeping with the character of the majority of the existing homes that are in that area, that we've noted that a majority do face Hunts Lane.
And also, what about the setbacks for other properties along Hunts Lane?
Those, I think that's where the minimum 60-foot front setback comes into play.
So
That's
this
the
property
new
would be-
condition that's proposed.
Okay. And so, Mr. Zellner, it looks like there's a big slope right there where you're, I guess, where you're proposing to put the home. Am I reading that right? It looks like there's a lot of lines there on
It's
the.
a flat land right there in the back. If you're looking at the picture, if you see the trees up front, sir, if you're looking at that to the right of, so basically even with the barn, all that is flat all the way up to the end of my lot. Only thing that slopes is the left side of the lot towards the other side of the trees, which would be, I guess, 890 or be the 900 block of Hunts Lane.
Okay. And so, are we to understand that you have permission to do a shared drive here?
Yes, sir.
And do you have an objection to having this property face Hunts Lane?
I do not.
Okay. I don't think I have any further questions.
Thank you.
Or it would be screened if it doesn't. So I think, based on the discussion, you would take out,
Right.
yeah. It would just end, yeah, after. like-
Zoellner,
Yes, sir.
your DPC, if I'm, your DPC number 7
Yes, sir.
says the residents, new residents will either be facing Hunts Lane or screened.
Yes, sir.
And do I understand correctly then that you'd like to delete the portion of that sentence that has to do with screening so that DPC number 7 will now say simply, all new residences will be oriented to face Hunts Lane, period.
That is fine with me, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Zoellner. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that has an opposition to this request? Hearing none, would call for a motion, Commissioners.
Make a motion to approve the proposed zoning, proposed general development plan amendment, docket number 2022-05DP. Based on the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed general development plan amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Further, I also find that there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature within the area of the property in question, and I request that these findings of fact and recommendation include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale, Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Drain, Commissioner Gay,
Ma'am.
and Chair Warren.
Yes, ma'am. The motion is approved, and it was planning and zoning final action, so the motion is approved. Thank you very much. Our next item tonight is 2022-01TCO, Cellco Properties, doing business as Verizon Wireless, the applicants, and the Joe Frank Duncan and Sandra W. Duncan Revocable Trust have filed an application for approval of a wireless communications tower, or a cell tower, located on a portion of a tract of land located at 0 Galloways Mill Road. This property is zoned ag. Ms. Hurt?
Thank you, Chair Warren. We had a pre-application meeting back in March. The proposed tower location you'll see on the aerial is outlined in that yellow box. The current zoning of the property is ag, with the use also ag. The future land use map is also ag. And so you can see the access would come off of Galloways Mill Road, just looking at the site plan here. And then you'll see the site area back in the square on your site plan. And then I'll reference a couple of other things here. So this is the elevation for the proposed tower. It would be 199 feet tall. And somewhere in here, there should be a detailed view of the cell tower compound. So you can see the tower location and accessory facilities, fencing, things of that nature. So that's also there for your reference. I'll be brief with the rest of the staff report. You'll see your Focus 2030 category review on page 2. CF9 and CF 9.1, the Planning Commission should determine if the tower will advance telecommunications and wireless infrastructure in Warren County. And then on page 3, we've referenced section 526E5 of the zoning ordinance, which outlines the specific use standards for telecommunications towers and accessory facilities. And in our review, we found that the application complies with all of the applicable criteria for this site, and that it meets the requirements of the ordinance. So I think that is all for the staff report. Like I said, I'll keep it short, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rachel. Commissioners, any questions regarding this request?
Chair Warren, am I correct here, is we really cannot turn this down?
That is correct, Mr. Volkert.
Okay.
Federal law. All right, thank you,
Thank you.
Rachel. All right. Is the applicant here? Anything, sir, you, well, come to the microphone. In your name and address, please, sir?
Russell Brown with the law firm of Clark, Quinn, Moses, Scott & Grond, 320 North Meridian Street, Suite 1100 in Indianapolis.
Thank you for driving down tonight from Indy, and do you swear to tell the truth?
I do. I'll be very brief. I was told a long time ago not to talk yourself out of an approval, so I will be very brief. But I did drive 3.5 hours, so I wanted to talk. First of all, it's nice to be back here. I was here, I think, this time last year, probably about the same meeting last year, so nice to be back in Warren County. Elizabeth Williams with me, Jesse Stiles, the SIDAC, and the landowners are here as well. I will just give brief testimony on how this does improve wireless coverage in this portion of the county. In your staff report, you do have a before and after picture of the proposed coverage provided by this location. If you look at pages 16 and 17 of your staff report, you see a before coverage and an after coverage. The darker color area provides where there will be enhanced wireless communications coverage in this area. It's along the Kentucky 1083 corridor. Provides for the town of Browning, provides enhanced coverage there. Talking to the landowners before the meeting, they indicate in their field when they're farming, there's portions that they get coverage and portions they get nothing. And so this will undoubtedly provide enhanced coverage in this area of the community. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. But thank you for your consideration, and thank you, as always, for staff's work on this. They're easy to work with, especially from far away, so we appreciate it.
All right, thank you, sir, for being here tonight. Just a minute, Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
So one question, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, that inevitably comes up is question will be asked about what if this tower falls? And so it's my understanding from previous applications that they are designed to fall downward instead of out. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so these towers are designed to fall at their weakest, to fail at their weakest point. So I would say they don't fall like a pencil. They would fall within them, on themselves. Obviously, you have setback requirements. We well exceed the setback requirements here, so any falling would be within the landowner's property. But they are designed to withhold, and I'll mess up the numbers. I think it's 80-mile-an-hour straight line wind with half an inch of ice coating the entire structure. That's the design standard that they're constructed to. Just anecdotally, I've seen them in southern Indiana survive tornadoes, go through a community, everything but the cell tower. Now you'll lose the antennas. The antennas will come off, but the tower itself often will remain standing after not a direct hit, but a near miss with a tornado. So that's how they're designed. And these are a lot of times what we've done. I've been doing this for 15 years. We've been going back and replacing towers that weren't built to that standard. So the standard has continued to evolve, and then that's the most current standard.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Sir, Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant or their representative?
I just have a curiosity question. When these cell towers are presented, how do they come about? How does the request for a cell tower occur? Is that through federal or is that through?
No, it's often because people are complaining that they don't have coverage in an area.
Right.
So it's often consumer driven. Okay. Especially when you get in the more rural areas of a community, it's often consumer driven. It is always, they're always evaluating network strength, and so if you get constant complaints about, hey, I always drop a call, I can tell you in Indianapolis there's a place that you almost always drop a call, and that's the infill that you try to do in some of those areas. Trying to cover, roadways, larger roadways, and then now as you have more and more individuals who depend on wireless coverage for their home internet service, trying to get closer and closer to large residential groupings. So, being near Browning would be a reason that there are a number of homes there, and so Verizon is in the business of now providing home internet service, and so that's another business line for them, and so that would be an opportunity not currently there because you don't have adequate coverage in this area of the community.
Need one next to my house. Is what
I live in Indianapolis in a densely populated area of town, and I tried to do the home internet, the Verizon home internet, and I couldn't get reliable coverage, and so I've been complaining for about a year that I need a tower down my block too, because I want to be able to go wireless. So,
Thanks for answering that. I appreciate it.
absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any other questions? We call for a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the proposed
Oh, wait, excuse me. I'm sorry, Greg. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that has opposition to this request? Go ahead, Greg, I'm sorry.
Make a motion to approve the proposed telecommunications tower application docket number 2022-1T County. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance and objective action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further request this motion include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Commissioner Gay,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale, Commissioner Volkert, Commissioner Drain, and Chair Warren.
Yes, ma'am. The motion approved goes to the Warren County Fiscal Court. Mr. and Ms. Duncan, thank you all for being here tonight. Ben, do we have any other discussion items for tonight?
Just a couple things quickly. We're currently doing interviews for our plans reviewer 1 position. We hope to have a recommendation to you by the January 19th full board meeting. Just mention again that there is no January 5th meeting. We didn't have enough items to have a meeting, so get a little break there. Other than that, it's just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Staff, thank you all for all you do each and every day behind the scenes. And as Mr. Peterson says, we wish everybody a Merry Christmas.